Welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight. As we settle in, we'll drift into the colorful world of the Pokémon anime, a series that has carried countless viewers across decades of adventure. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Pokémon is. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next adventure. From its earliest beginnings in the late 1990s to its evolution across generations, the show has been more than just a companion to the games. It has been a window into friendship, exploration, and the small moments of humor and heart that define the journey. Together, we'll uncover 151 facts about the Pokemon anime, exploring hidden details, creative choices, and memorable moments that continue to resonate. The story of the Pokemon anime begins in the mid 1990s when the success of the games in Japan caught the attention of television producers. Game Freak and Nintendo had created a phenomenon with Pokemon Red and Green, but expanding that world into animation required a new vision. OLM, a studio with experience in bringing popular properties to life, was chosen to handle the series. The decision was both practical and ambitious. On one hand, the anime could serve as marketing for the games and merchandise. On the other, it could stand as its own work of art, with characters and stories designed to capture hearts beyond the handheld console screen. From the start, the anime needed a central character who could embody the themes of exploration, growth, and friendship. Instead of using the silent protagonists of the games, the writers created Ash Ketchum, a spirited 10-year-old from Pallet Town who dreamed of becoming a Pokemon master. Known as Satoshi in Japan, his character was modeled after Satoshi Tajiri, the creator of Pokemon himself. This decision grounded the anime in a sense of personal connection, turning Ash into both a representation of the audience and a reflection of the series' creators' childhood dreams. The first episode aired in Japan in 1997 and quickly captured attention. It told the story of Ash oversleeping on the morning he was meant to receive his first partner, a small mistake that led to his iconic bond with Pikachu. This episode established many of the themes that would carry through the series: perseverance in the face of setbacks, the importance of bonds between humans and Pokemon, and the value of friendship over raw power. Though simple in structure, the episode struck a chord with children who saw themselves in Ash's struggles and triumphs. The anime was notable for how it expanded on the game's world. Where the games offered minimal dialogue and sparse story, the show fleshed out towns, regions, and relationships. Gym leaders, who in the games were often little more than obstacles on the path to badges, became full characters with personalities, quirks, and backstories. Brock, for instance, was not simply a rock-type specialist, but a caretaker of younger siblings, whose maturity contrasted with Ash's youthful impulsiveness. Misty, meanwhile, was given a fiery temper and a personal quest to step out from her sister's shadows, creating a character dynamic that fueled both comedy and growth. Another defining feature of the anime was the presence of Team Rocket. Jessie, James, and Meowth, who began as minor villains, quickly became central figures thanks to their exaggerated personalities and comedic flair. Their dramatic motto, flamboyant disguises, and persistent failures turned them into lovable foils for Ash and his friends. Meowth's ability to speak human language was also a unique addition, giving the group a distinct identity within the Pokemon universe. Though they were antagonists, their humor and occasional moments of humanity ensured that they became fan favorites. The anime also experimented with storytelling techniques that set it apart from the games. Each episode followed a largely self-contained structure, with Ash and his friends encountering new Pokémon, solving local problems, or facing off against Team Rocket. Yet through these episodic adventures, the show wove a larger narrative of growth, exploration, and perseverance. This balance made it easy for new viewers to jump in at any point, while rewarding regular viewers with a sense of ongoing progression. One of the earliest challenges faced by the production team was adapting the look of Pokémon for animation. The game sprites were limited and simple, but in the anime, the creatures needed to move fluidly, express emotions, and convey distinct personalities. Animators poured effort into giving each Pokémon mannerisms that went beyond battle abilities. Pikachu's stubborn independence, Bulbasaur's loyalty, and Psyduck's comedic confusion all became defining traits. These touches elevated Pokémon from creatures of utility into characters with depth, creating bonds between viewers and their favorites. The anime also amplified emotional beats in ways the games could not. Episodes often focused on themes of letting go, such as when Ash released Butterfree to be with its mate, or when Charmander's loyalty was tested against its past trainer. These moments of departure carried emotional weight, teaching children lessons about responsibility, compassion, and sacrifice. Unlike the games, where captured Pokémon could be stored indefinitely, the anime emphasized the idea that bonds came with obligations, and sometimes those obligations required difficult choices. Cultural differences between Japan and the West influenced the anime's localization. When the show came to North America in 1998, it was adapted with changes in dialogue, music, and even names. Satoshi became Ash, Kasumi became Misty, and Takeshi became Brock. The decision to give characters Western-friendly names reflected the localization strategy of the games, aiming to make the franchise accessible to children worldwide. The dub also introduced original music tracks, including the now iconic English theme song, which became a cultural touchstone in its own right. The anime's debut outside Japan coincided with the height of Pokemania. Children watched episodes after school, collected trading cards, and played the games on their Game Boys, creating a cycle of engagement that made Pokemon unavoidable. The anime's humor, action, and heart resonated across cultures, making it one of the most successful game-to-show adaptations ever. Its first season alone spanned over 80 episodes, carrying Ash and his friends through Kanto in a way that mirrored yet expanded upon the structure of the games. The visual design of the anime also shaped how fans perceived Pokemon. While official artwork and game sprites provided one vision, the fluid animation gave the creatures movement and presence that could not be captured elsewhere. For many children, the anime became the definitive representation of what Pokemon looked and acted like. Even merchandise, from toys to trading cards, began to reflect designs and personalities introduced in the show. This synergy ensured that the anime was not just a supplement to the games, but a central pillar of the Pokémon brand. One of the most remarkable aspects of the anime's early success was its ability to appeal across age groups. While children were its primary audience, older viewers often found themselves drawn in by the humor, storytelling, and sheer creativity. The antics of Team Rocket, the emotional bonds between Pokémon and trainers, and the imaginative battles gave the series a universal charm. This broad appeal contributed to its longevity, ensuring that Pokémon remained a cultural presence long after many expected it to fade. The anime also carried its share of challenges. In 1997, one episode titled Deno Senshi Porygon caused seizures in hundreds of viewers due to flashing lights, leading to hospitalization and a temporary suspension of the show. This incident, often referred to as the Porygon episode, became infamous and was never aired again. It led to stricter guidelines for animation in Japan and influenced how future shows approached visual effects. While the event was tragic, it also underscored the impact Pokémon had, as its reach was so wide that the incident became international news. Despite this setback, the anime continued with renewed success. Its blend of adventure, humor, and heart carried it through the Indigo League arc and beyond, establishing a formula that would evolve but never disappear. The first season's finale, in which Ash competed in the league, reminded viewers that success was not guaranteed and that growth was as important as victory. This message set the tone for the many seasons that followed, where Ash often fell short of ultimate triumph, but grew stronger with every journey. Looking back, the origins of the Pokémon anime reveal how carefully it was crafted to balance accessibility, emotion, and cross-media synergy. From the creation of Ash as a relatable protagonist to the inclusion of Team Rocket as comic foils, every decision was designed to expand the world of Pokémon while preserving its spirit. For many, those early episodes remain the heart of the franchise, filled with moments of laughter, tears, and wonder. Even decades later, drifting back through the memories of those episodes feels like revisiting an old friend, one who has been with us since the very beginning. When Pokémon made its leap from Japan to the rest of the world, the anime became the spark that ignited a phenomenon unlike anything the franchise had seen before. The games had already achieved strong sales in Japan, but it was the show, broadcast daily on televisions across North America and Europe, that transformed Pokémon into a household name. Children who had never touched a Game Boy suddenly knew Pikachu, Ash, and Team Rocket. The anime turned a video game property into a cultural juggernaut, carried by colorful animation, catchy music, and a tone that balanced humor with heartfelt lessons. Localization played a central role in this success. When 4Kids Entertainment took on the task of adapting the series for Western audiences, they faced the challenge of making a very Japanese world feel familiar to children abroad. This meant altering names, rewriting dialogue, and even replacing entire soundtracks. The protagonist became Ash, a name meant to suggest growth and fire, while Misty and Brock were chosen for their simplicity and relatability. The Pokémon themselves retained their localized names from the games, ensuring consistency across media. For many fans, these changes became so iconic that they could hardly imagine the series any other way. The most famous example of localization shaping the anime's identity lies in its music. In Japan, the opening theme was a triumphant, adventurous song about striving to be the very best trainer. In North America, the dub created an entirely new track that became legendary in its own right. The Pokémon theme song, with its powerful chorus of "I wanna be the very best," captured the imagination of a generation. It was more than an introduction to a cartoon. It was an anthem that children sang on playgrounds, at school talent shows, and even years later as nostalgic adults. The theme became so embedded in culture that it transcended the show itself, often quoted or parodied in contexts far removed from Pokémon. Beyond the theme, the dub also replaced much of the background music with original tracks. While purists sometimes lamented these changes, the decision gave the Western version of the anime its own flavor. The new music leaned heavily into dramatic swells, comedic jingles, and emotional cues, shaping how audiences experienced key moments, from the tension of gym battles to the comedy of Team Rocket's antics. The music carried a distinctive voice that Western audiences embraced. Voice acting provided another cultural touchstone. Veronica Taylor's performance as Ash gave the character boundless energy and optimism, while Rachel Lillis brought both sass and warmth to Misty. Eric Stewart gave Brock a calm maturity, and together these voices defined the trio for an entire generation of English-speaking fans. Team Rocket's voices, performed by Rachel Lillis and Eric Stewart, leaned into campy theatricality, turning Jesse and James into melodramatic icons. James, in particular, gained a cult following for his over-the-top delivery, making him one of the most beloved characters in the dub. The anime also became infamous for its localization quirks and occasional missteps. Cultural references were sometimes swapped for Western equivalents. Rice balls, a staple of Japanese lunches, were occasionally called donuts or sandwiches in the dub, creating humorous confusion for children who wondered why jelly donuts looked like white discs of rice. These small changes reflected the localization philosophy of the era, which often prioritized relatability over authenticity. While some fans later criticized these edits, at the time they helped smooth the cultural transition for young audiences unfamiliar with Japanese cuisine or customs. The global rise of the anime was not without controversy. One of the most notable issues arose from the previously mentioned Porygon episode in Japan, which caused seizures in hundreds of viewers due to flashing lights. Although this episode never aired internationally, its notoriety spread quickly, and news coverage around the world cast a shadow over the anime. Parents worried about the safety of letting their children watch Pokémon, while networks adjusted broadcast standards to prevent similar incidents. Ironically, Pikachu was blamed in many reports, despite the fact that the scene in question involved Porygon. This misunderstanding became one of the many odd bits of trivia tied to the anime's history. Censorship also shaped the show's global footprint. Certain episodes were altered or withheld entirely for Western audiences due to content considered inappropriate or confusing. Episodes featuring heavy use of guns, references to alcohol, or cultural humor that did not translate were either heavily edited or skipped. The infamous Beauty and the Beach episode, in which James donned inflatable breasts during a swimsuit contest, was one such example, aired only once in the West, with edits, and then pulled from rotation. These decisions reflected the balancing act of adapting a Japanese children's show to stricter Western broadcast standards, often creating an air of mystery around the banned episodes. Despite these challenges, the anime thrived. It became a daily ritual for countless children, often airing in weekday morning or after-school slots. The sheer volume of episodes meant that Pokémon felt ever-present, its characters becoming companions as familiar as classmates. Viewers followed Ash's journey through Kanto, cheered for his victories, and felt disappointment when he fell short in the Indigo League. Unlike typical cartoons of the time, which often reset each episode with little continuity, Pokémon offered a sense of progression. The promise of new adventures kept audiences returning week after week. Merchandise played a massive role in the anime's cultural presence. Toys, clothing, lunchboxes, and trading cards often featured art directly from the show rather than the games. For many children, the anime version of Pikachu, rounder and more expressive than its early game sprite, became the definitive image of the mascot. Characters like Misty and Brock were also heavily featured, cementing their roles as cultural icons. The synergy between the anime and merchandise ensured that Pokémon was more than entertainment. It was a lifestyle, woven into daily routines. The anime also introduced a unique rhythm of humor and heart that defined Pokemon's identity. Team Rocket's motto, recited with melodramatic flair in nearly every episode, became a ritual that audiences anticipated. Children memorized the lines and repeated them with friends, turning a villainous catchphrase into a cultural chant. Yet beneath the comedy, the anime often delivered emotional lessons. Episodes like the release of Butterfree or the story of Pikachu's initial distrust of Ash reminded viewers that love, trust, and sacrifice were central to the journey. These emotional beats gave the show a depth that elevated it beyond mere product tie-in. Another important factor in the anime's global rise was its accessibility. Unlike the games, which required a Game Boy and a cartridge, the show was free to watch on television. This meant that even children who could not afford the games or trading cards could still experience Pokémon. For many, the anime was their first introduction to the franchise, sparking interest that later led to game purchases or card collecting. This accessibility made Pokémon inclusive, ensuring that it reached the widest possible audience. The sheer popularity of the anime also led to cultural pushback. Some schools banned Pokémon cards and merchandise due to playground disputes, and parents occasionally expressed concern about children being too obsessed. Religious groups in some regions even criticized the anime, claiming it promoted themes of evolution or mysticism. These controversies only added to the franchise's notoriety, cementing its role as a defining cultural touchstone of the late 1990s. What made the anime endure, however, was its heart. Beneath the marketing synergy and global phenomenon, the show succeeded because it told stories about friendship, perseverance, and discovery. Ash's failures in the Indigo League reminded viewers that setbacks were part of growth. Misty's fiery temper and Brock's quiet wisdom provided balance to the group, creating dynamics that felt authentic. Even Team Rocket, though villains, displayed camaraderie and loyalty that made them oddly relatable. The anime offered lessons in kindness, resilience, and imagination, all wrapped in colorful battles and playful humor. Looking back, the international explosion of the Pokémon anime was more than just a marketing triumph. It was a cultural moment that defined a generation. Children around the world shared the same stories, sang the same theme song, and bonded over the same character. It turned a niche Japanese RPG into a worldwide phenomenon, ensuring that Pokémon would not be a fleeting fad, but a lasting part of global culture. For those who grew up with the anime, the memories of rushing home to catch the next episode, trading impressions with friends, and reenacting battles on the playground remain some of the most cherished of childhood. The Indigo League arc is where the Pokémon anime truly cemented itself as more than just a companion to the games. Stretching across dozens of episodes, it carried Ash and his friends through the Kanto region, filling in details, personalities, and stories that the games could only hint at. For many viewers, this arc was not only the beginning of Ash's long journey, but also the heart of the entire series, full of moments that became iconic to fans around the world. Ash's journey began with his unexpected partnership with Pikachu, a bond that initially seemed rocky. Pikachu refused to enter a Pokeball and openly resisted Ash's authority, sparking comedic clashes that underscored their differences. It was not until Ash placed himself in danger to protect Pikachu from a flock of Spearow that their bond began to solidify. This early conflict set the tone for the entire series. Pokémon were not mere tools for victory, but companions whose trust and loyalty had to be earned. That lesson would resurface in countless episodes throughout the Indigo arc, each time deepening Ash's understanding of what it truly meant to be a trainer. The anime's adaptation of gym battles offered one of its most memorable contributions. In the games, gym leaders functioned primarily as obstacles, but in the anime, each became a character with distinct motivations and backstories. Brock was reimagined not just as a rock-type trainer, but as a caretaker responsible for a large family of siblings after his parents left. His reluctant departure to join Ash gave viewers a sense of his maturity and responsibility, qualities that contrasted sharply with Ash's impulsiveness. Misty, initially following Ash to reclaim her damaged bike, became a fiery and loyal companion, her rivalry and banter with Ash adding levity to the group's dynamic. Together, these three created the foundation of the original cast, their interactions shaping much of the anime's charm. Each gym battle also played differently from the games. Ash often won not through sheer power, but through creativity, luck, or even acts of kindness. His victory over Brock, for example, came after Pikachu's electricity was supercharged by an external source, blurring the line between strategy and improvisation. Against Misty, the battle ended prematurely when Ash chose not to exploit her disadvantage, a decision that reflected his values rather than his desire for victory. These deviations from the game structure showed that the anime was more interested in teaching lessons about growth and friendship than in strict competitive outcomes. Perhaps one of the most famous Indigo League moments was Ash's encounter with Sabrina, the psychic-type gym leader. Her eerie, doll-like demeanor and unsettling psychic powers gave the anime one of its most haunting storylines. Ash's initial defeat, where he and his friends were literally turned into dolls, demonstrated the stakes of facing a trainer whose powers extended beyond Pokémon battles. With the help of Haunter, a mischievous ghost type, Ash was able to make Sabrina laugh and break through her cold exterior. The resolution of this arc underscored the anime's emphasis on empathy and human connection, showing that victory could come not only through battling, but through understanding. Alongside gym battles, the anime filled Kanto with original stories and emotional arcs. One of the most memorable episodes was the departure of Butterfree. Ash's first catch had been with him since the early episodes, its evolution into Butterfree symbolizing his growth as a trainer. When Butterfree found a mate during a migration and chose to leave, Ash's tearful farewell gave the series one of its most emotional moments. This episode demonstrated that the anime was willing to explore themes of loss and letting go, teaching children that sometimes love meant saying goodbye. The sequence of Butterfree flying off into the sunset remains etched into the memory of fans, often cited as one of the most poignant scenes in the franchise. Charmander's storyline provided another emotional highlight. Introduced as an abandoned Pokémon left in the rain by a cruel trainer, Charmander clung to life with its tail flame dwindling. Ash and his friends' rescue of Charmander, followed by its eventual loyalty to Ash, created a powerful narrative about trust and compassion. However, Charmander's evolution into Charmeleon and later Charizard brought new challenges, as its disobedience tested Ash's ability to lead. This arc emphasized that relationships with Pokémon required continual effort and understanding, not just initial acts of kindness. Charizard's rebelliousness became one of the defining struggles of Ash's early journey, a reminder that growth often came with setbacks. Pikachu's evolving bond with Ash also provided ongoing depth, from refusing to battle Misty in the early episodes to risking its life repeatedly for Ash. Pikachu grew from a reluctant partner into Ash's closest friend. Episodes often highlighted its unique personality, from its mischievous independence to its fierce protectiveness. For children watching, Pikachu embodied both the cuteness and the strength of Pokemon, serving as a bridge between lighthearted comedy and heartfelt emotion. Its role in the anime solidified its place as the mascot of the franchise, far beyond the popularity it gained from the games alone. Team Rocket's repeated appearances also became a defining element of the Indigo arc. While they often served as comedic relief, their persistence created a sense of continuity across episodes. Their motto, recited with dramatic flair, became one of the anime's most recognizable rituals. Yet, even within their bumbling failures, Jessie, James, and Meowth displayed loyalty to each other that mirrored the bonds between Ash and his friends. This parallel gave depth to their roles, reminding viewers that even so-called villains could embody themes of camaraderie and perseverance. The Indigo League competition itself brought the first season to a dramatic close. Ash's journey through the tournament showcased his growth as a trainer, but it also highlighted his limitations. His battles were filled with creativity and determination, but ultimately he fell short of victory, losing to Richie in a match that emphasized fairness and sportsmanship. Rather than ending on a triumphant note, the anime chose to highlight the importance of learning from failure. Ash's disappointment was real, but it was softened by the knowledge that his journey had only just begun. This decision distinguished the anime from other children's shows of the time, which often relied on neat victories. By showing that even the protagonist could fail, the anime delivered a lesson in resilience that resonated deeply with viewers. Throughout the Indigo arc, the anime also sprinkled in moments of humor and slice-of-life storytelling. Episodes featured lighthearted detours, such as Misty competing in a beauty contest, Brock falling in love with nearly every woman he met, or Pikachu and other Pokemon engaging in comedic side adventures. These episodes balanced the more serious gym battles and emotional farewells, ensuring that the series remained approachable and fun. This blend of tones became a hallmark of the Pokémon anime, one that kept it engaging for children while offering depth that rewarded long-term viewers. The Indigo arc also served as the foundation for many traditions that continued throughout the series. Ash's pattern of catching a small but diverse team, facing gym leaders, encountering legendary Pokemon in fleeting glimpses, and eventually competing in a regional league became the blueprint for future seasons. While each new region would bring its own twists, the spirit of Indigo lingered, shaping the DNA of the anime for decades to come. Looking back, the Indigo League arc represents not only the starting point of Ash's journey, but also the heart of what made the Pokémon anime timeless. It offered humor, emotion, and adventure in equal measure, weaving stories that transcended the role of simple marketing. For countless viewers, these episodes became part of their childhood, memories that still echo whenever they hear the opening theme or see Pikachu's determined face. The arc may have ended with Ash's first loss, but it laid the foundation for a story that would continue for more than 20 years, a story built not on perfection, but on growth, resilience, and friendship. The Orange Islands arc marked the first time the Pokémon anime fully stepped away from the games to create something entirely its own. After the Indigo League concluded, many expected the story to jump straight into the Johto adventures, but instead, the show took a detour into uncharted territory. The Orange Islands region, with its warm tropical atmosphere, bright beaches, and oceanic roots, introduced a world that did not exist in any game, yet it quickly became an essential part of the anime's legacy. For many viewers, this arc was proof that the anime was not bound to the game's structure, but capable of expanding the universe with fresh stories and memorable new characters. The journey began when Ash, Misty, and Tracy traveled through the archipelago after Brock departed temporarily to assist Professor Ivy. Brock's departure was significant, as he had been a central part of the group since the early episodes. The anime explained his absence by introducing Professor Ivy, a researcher from the Orange Islands who needed Brock's help with her work. While Brock's absence saddened many viewers, the introduction of Tracy Sketchit brought a new dynamic. Tracy was a Pokémon watcher, fascinated with observing and sketching creatures in their natural habitats. His calm, analytical personality contrasted with Brock's excitable demeanor, creating a different but still balanced group dynamic alongside Ash's impulsiveness and Misty's fiery wit. The Orange Islands arc also redefined the concept of a gym challenge. Instead of the traditional battles found in the games, each gym presented Ash with unique trials designed to test creativity, teamwork, and problem-solving skills. At the first gym, Ash faced a water-based race where trainers and Pokémon had to navigate a course together. In another, he competed in a Pokémon wave-riding competition, relying on Lapras to surf across the ocean. These challenges highlighted that Pokémon training was about more than battling. It was about trust, coordination, and adapting to unexpected circumstances. For viewers, this fresh approach kept the arc exciting, showing that the anime could reinvent core concepts while remaining true to its themes. Lapras became one of the most iconic companions of this arc, serving as both a mode of transportation and a loyal partner. With the Orange Islands being a chain of islands separated by wide stretches of water, Lapras allowed Ash and his friends to travel from one destination to the next, symbolizing their connection to the ocean. Its gentle demeanor and strength in water-based challenges made it a vital member of Ash's team. The bond between Ash and Lapras grew steadily throughout the arc, and when Lapras eventually reunited with its family and returned to the wild, the farewell echoed the bittersweet tone of Ash's goodbye to Butterfree, reinforcing the theme that sometimes the best way to show love was to let go. The arc also introduced Ash's Snorlax, a massive and seemingly lazy Pokémon that often fell asleep in inconvenient places. Despite its comedic tendencies, Snorlax became a powerhouse in battles, demonstrating unexpected strength and resilience. Its addition to Ash's team reflected the anime's balance of humor and strategy, turning a Pokémon often remembered for blocking paths in the games into a beloved character with its own charm. Perhaps the most significant Pokémon of the Orange Islands arc was Ash's Charizard, whose character development reached a turning point. Throughout Indigo, Charizard had been a source of frustration, ignoring Ash's commands and battling only when it felt like it. In the Orange Islands, however, a pivotal episode titled Charizard Chills marked the beginning of change. When Charizard collapsed from exhaustion after a tough battle, Ash stayed by its side, tending to it through the night. This act of devotion convinced Charizard to finally acknowledge Ash as its trainer. From that moment forward, Charizard became one of Ash's most reliable and powerful allies. This storyline captured the essence of growth and trust, demonstrating that relationships were built through patience and perseverance, not just quick victories. The Orange Islands arc also showcased Team Rocket in new ways. While their comedic motto and endless pursuit of Pikachu remained consistent, the tropical setting provided fresh scenarios for their schemes. From disguising themselves as beach vendors to attempting elaborate water-based heists, Jessie, James, and Meowth adapted their antics to the island environment. The arc continued to highlight their determination despite constant failure, making them enduring figures of comic relief and, at times, unexpected heart. One of the most fascinating aspects of this arc was its treatment of legendary Pokémon. The climax of the Orange Islands centered around a grand storyline involving Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, three legendary birds whose imbalance threatened the natural harmony of the region. At the heart of this crisis was Lugia, a legendary guardian whose appearance marked the first time a movie Pokémon crossed into the main anime storyline. This multi-episode arc, known as The Power of One tie-in, gave viewers one of the anime's most cinematic adventures. Ash's role in helping restore balance emphasized the recurring theme that even ordinary trainers could influence the fate of the world when guided by courage and friendship. The arc also featured the introduction of the Orange League, a tournament that culminated in Ash earning his first official championship. Unlike his defeat in the Indigo League, Ash triumphed over the Orange Crew leader Drake, securing victory with a full 6-on-6 battle. This win was significant for Ash's character, representing his growth as a trainer since the beginning of his journey. While some fans debate whether the Orange League carried the same weight as the traditional regional leagues, for Ash it was a milestone that boosted his confidence and proved his potential. Beyond battles and tournaments, the Orange Islands were filled with light-hearted episodes that deepened the personalities of both Pokémon and humans. Misty often took center stage in episodes that highlighted her bond with water types, reinforcing her role as a specialist. Tracy's observations gave viewers new perspectives on how Pokémon lived in their natural environments, shifting focus from competition to coexistence. These quieter moments enriched the anime's world, reminding fans that Pokémon was as much about relationships and exploration as it was about victories. The design of the Orange Islands themselves played a crucial role in making the arc stand out. The bright, colorful animation contrasted with the darker tones of the Indigo League's urban settings and caves. Beaches, coral reefs, and tropical forests gave the series a sense of freshness, as if viewers were on a summer vacation alongside the characters. This visual shift was one of the first major examples of the anime experimenting with regional identity, a concept that would become central in later seasons as new regions were introduced. What made the Orange Islands arc particularly memorable was its willingness to experiment while still honoring the heart of the franchise. It introduced new types of challenges, deepened character development, and created stories that could stand alone, unanchored to game events. At the same time, it preserved the themes of friendship, growth, and resilience that defined the series from the very beginning. For many fans, this arc became a hidden gem, a reminder that Pokémon was capable of innovation without losing its soul. The Orange Islands arc also highlighted the importance of pacing in the anime. By introducing an entirely new region between game-based arcs, the series avoided rushing into Johto, instead giving fans time to savor Ash's ongoing growth. This creative choice demonstrated the anime's ability to manage its own timeline, filling gaps between game releases with original stories that still felt authentic. The success of the arc paved the way for future anime original experiments, showing that the franchise's universe was flexible enough to expand beyond its original blueprint. Looking back, the Orange Islands arc stands as one of the most unique and daring chapters in the Pokémon anime. It was a season that embraced creativity, experimented with new ideas, and gave Ash his first real taste of victory. It explored themes of loyalty, growth, and harmony with nature, all while delivering humor, emotion, and excitement in a tropical setting. For fans who watched it during its original run, the Orange Islands remain a cherished memory, a reminder of the anime's ability to surprise and delight even when it strayed from the games. The arc closed with Ash preparing to continue his journey into Johto, carrying the lessons, friendships, and victories of the Orange Islands with him. While many saw it as a side story, in truth it was a bridge that connected Kanto to Johto, showing that Ash's adventure was not a series of disconnected regions, but a continuous story of growth. The Orange Islands may have been fictional within the Pokemon universe, but their impact on the anime was very real, leaving behind a legacy of creativity and heart that still resonates today. The Johto saga marked the Pokemon anime's transition into its second major era. Following the tropical detour of the Orange Islands, Ash, Misty, and Brock set their sights on Johto, the region introduced in the Gold and Silver games. For many fans, this arc represented both continuity and growth. Ash was no longer the rookie trainer fumbling his way through Kanto. Instead, he carried the lessons of his earlier adventures into a new land filled with fresh challenges, Pokemon, and cultural influences. At the same time, Johto allowed the anime to expand its world building, weaving in traditions, myths, and relationships that gave the series a sense of maturity. The Johto arc began with Ash meeting Professor Elm, the researcher who specialized in breeding and baby Pokemon. Unlike Oak, who was more of a mentor figure, Elm's eccentric personality added humor and novelty. This introduction highlighted one of the themes of Johto, the importance of Pokemon breeding, eggs, and generational continuity. For the first time, the anime showcased Pokemon hatching from eggs in regular episodes, emphasizing the natural cycle of life in a way the earlier seasons had only hinted at. Togepi, Misty's baby Pokemon, remained a constant presence, symbolizing the bond between trainer and Pokemon even before battles entered the picture. The Johto region also introduced new Pokemon companions for Ash. One of his earliest captures was Chikorita, a stubborn grass type who quickly became one of his most affectionate team members. Chikorita's loyalty bordered on jealousy, often expressing frustration when Ash paid attention to Pikachu or others. This playful rivalry created lighthearted drama and underscored the idea that Pokemon had distinct personalities, not just roles in battle. Over time, Chikorita evolved into Bayleaf, retaining its affection for Ash, but gaining strength and maturity, paralleling Ash's own growth. Another important addition was Cyndaquil, a timid fire type whose flame sputtered nervously when it felt unsure. Episodes centered on Cyndaquil often showed Ash encouraging it to believe in itself, mirroring the broader theme of perseverance. Eventually, its flame burned brighter as its confidence grew, a subtle but effective way the anime conveyed emotional arcs through battle mechanics. Totodile, on the other hand, brought pure comic relief. With its carefree dancing, wide-mouthed grin, and boundless energy, Totodile became the lighthearted counterbalance to more serious team members, ensuring that the tone of the Johto saga stayed playful even during tense storylines. The return of Charizard also played a major role in early Johto. After finally accepting Ash as its trainer in the Orange Islands, Charizard became one of his most dependable allies. Its immense power gave Ash a boost in tough battles, and its loyalty marked one of the most satisfying character arcs from the early anime. However, Charizard's eventual departure to train at the Cherisific Valley was one of the saga's most emotional moments. Watching Charizard choose to stay behind for its own growth showed that sometimes the best way to support a friend was to let them follow their path, even if it meant saying goodbye. The Johto arc also expanded Brock and Misty's roles. Brock continued to act as a mentor, often providing knowledge about Pokemon care and strategy. His interactions with new species highlighted his expertise as a breeder, a dream the anime gradually fleshed out over time. Misty, meanwhile, had her bond with Togepi as a recurring theme, but also grew as a water-type specialist. Episodes often showcased her pride in her Staryu and Psyduck, with Psyduck's comical headaches becoming a running gag. These character-focused episodes ensured that the anime felt like more than Ash's story, giving the supporting cast chances to shine. The gym battles of Johto reflected both tradition and innovation. Leaders such as Faulkner, Bugsy, and Whitney each had distinct personalities that made their episodes memorable. Whitney's Miltank, with its infamous rollout attack, mirrored the frustration many players felt in the games, but Ash's eventual victory emphasized strategy and adaptation. Claire, the dragon-type gym leader, provided one of the saga's most dramatic arcs, tying into the lore of Dragonair and Dragonite while pushing Ash to his limits. These battles showcased Ash's growth as a trainer, as he increasingly relied on skill and teamwork rather than luck. One of the standout features of Johto was its embrace of mythology and tradition. Episodes explored the ruins of Alph and the mysterious unknown, tying ancient symbols and puzzles to the broader world. The legendary beasts Entei, Raikou, and Suicune were also introduced, each representing themes of resurrection, mystery, and natural balance. While the anime rarely allowed Ash to catch or fully battle these legendaries, their fleeting appearances reinforced the idea that the Pokemon world contained forces beyond human control. For children watching, these glimpses of power created awe and curiosity, deepening their sense of immersion in the world. The Johto League itself represented Ash's continued growth. Unlike his loss in Kanto, where inexperience cost him, Ash entered Johto with more confidence and strategy. His matches built tension across episodes, culminating in his battle against Gary Oak, his longtime rival. This showdown was one of the most anticipated moments of the entire anime up to that point. Gary, who had often mocked and underestimated Ash, revealed himself to be a skilled trainer with a formidable team. The battle between Ash's Charizard and Gary's Blastoise became a symbolic clash of rivals, representing years of buildup. Ash's victory over Gary marked a turning point, showing that he had truly matured as a trainer. Though he eventually lost to Harrison in the semi-finals, the battle with Gary was widely considered one of the most satisfying payoffs in the series. Team Rocket remained a constant throughout Johto, but the writers used the longer season to deepen their characterizations. Jessie, James, and Meowth were often given episodes that highlighted their quirks, dreams, and even moments of unexpected heroism. Their persistence in pursuing Pikachu never waned, but their roles often went beyond mere antagonists, serving as comic relief or even allies when greater threats emerged. This flexibility ensured that the trio remained beloved rather than repetitive. Movies tied to the Johto era also enriched the anime's storytelling. Pokémon 2000, which featured Lugia and the legendary birds, built on the theme of balance between nature and humanity. Spell of the Unknown delved into the mysterious power of the alphabet-shaped Pokémon, while Celebi, Voice of the Forest, offered one of the most emotional narratives, weaving themes of time travel environmentalism, and friendship. These films reinforced the anime's ability to tackle complex themes while still appealing to children, blending spectacle with heart. Another subtle but important aspect of Johto was its pacing. The saga stretched across more than 150 episodes, giving it a slower rhythm compared to Kanto's tighter arc. While some fans later criticized this length for filler content, the slower pace also allowed for deeper character exploration and more slice of life storytelling. Episodes featured festivals, competitions, and cultural traditions that fleshed out Johto as a lived in world, not just a series of routes and towns. These quieter stories gave viewers a chance to appreciate the everyday lives of trainers and Pokémon, grounding the fantasy in relatable experiences. The Johto saga also emphasized themes of legacy and growth. Ash's journey was not just about collecting badges, but about proving himself as a trainer capable of rivaling those he admired. His victories were earned through persistence and creativity. His friendships deepened through shared struggles, and his setbacks turned into lessons that shaped his future. For many viewers, Johto represented a bridge between the excitement of childhood discovery in Kanto and the more mature themes that later regions would explore. Looking back, the Johto era stands as one of the most beloved periods of the Pokémon anime. It combined continuity with innovation, nostalgia with new adventures. Ash's growth, the development of his Pokémon, the deepening of his friendships, and the climactic battle with Gary all made this arc feel like a true coming-of-age story. While the pacing may have been slower, the richness of its world-building, mythology, and character arcs ensured that Johto left an enduring mark. It was a saga that reminded fans that Pokémon was not just about battles or victories, but about the journey itself, the bonds formed, the lessons learned, and the memories created along the way. The Hoenn saga marked a turning point for the Pokémon anime. After years of following Ash, Misty, and Brock through Kanto and Johto, the series introduced a new cast, dynamic designed to mirror the arrival of the third generation of games, with Ruby and Sapphire bringing hundreds of new Pokémon and mechanics. The anime needed to evolve alongside them. The result was a season that felt both familiar and refreshingly different, combining Ash's ongoing growth with the journeys of new companions who carried their own goals, struggles, and personalities. The most significant change came with the departure of Misty. At the end of the Johto saga, she returned to Cerulean City to take over her family's gym, leaving Ash and Brock to continue their journey into Hoenn. Misty's farewell was bittersweet. Her fiery personality and close bond with Ash had shaped much of the anime's humor and emotion, but her departure allowed the show to shift direction, introducing May and her younger brother Max as new traveling companions. May, the daughter of gym leader Norman, became one of the anime's most important characters. Unlike Misty, who already had a clear passion for water-type Pokémon, May began her journey uncertain of what she wanted. Initially uninterested in battling or training, she slowly discovered her love for Pokémon contests, a new feature in both the games and the anime. These contests emphasize style, creativity, and appeal over sheer strength, providing a fresh narrative thread that ran parallel to Ash's gym battles. May's journey gave viewers a chance to see the world of Pokémon through a different lens, one that celebrated beauty and artistry. Max, while too young to be a trainer, brought his own energy to the group. His sharp intellect and knowledge of Pokémon often made him seem wiser than his age, though his inexperience occasionally caused comedic mishaps. His admiration for Ash served as a reminder of how far Ash had come, as he was no longer just a beginner, but a role model for younger characters. Max's presence also expanded the theme of family, emphasizing that the Pokemon journey could inspire people at any stage of life. The Hoenn region itself brought a sense of vibrancy and diversity, with lush forests, active volcanoes, expansive oceans, and tropical islands. The setting felt alive and dynamic. The anime leaned into these environments, creating episodes that showcased Hoenn's unique ecosystems. This mirrored the third generation's emphasis on nature and balance between land and sea, themes embodied by the legendary Pokemon Groudon and Kyogre. The emphasis on environment gave Hoenn a distinctive identity, separate from the urban landscapes of Kanto or the traditional villages of Johto. Ash's Hoenn team reflected his own growth as a trainer. One of his most notable captures was Trico, a confident and slightly cocky grass type who later evolved into Grovyle and Sceptile. Its evolution into Sceptile made it one of Ash's most powerful and dependable Pokemon, a true partner in battle. Another memorable addition was Corphish, whose mischievous personality and love for antics provided comic relief. Its loud outbursts and quirky behavior often caused chaos, but in battle, it proved to be surprisingly capable. Torkoal brought emotional depth, as its tendency to cry smoke tears added a layer of vulnerability to its otherwise sturdy appearance. Swellow became a symbol of Ash's skill in aerial battles, often working in tandem with Pikachu to deliver powerful combinations. Together, these Pokemon formed a team that showcased both strength and personality, reflecting Ash's evolving ability to balance strategy with bonds. One of the highlights of Hoenn was the development of May's team. Torchic, her starter, struggled initially, often fumbling in battles and lacking confidence. But its eventual evolution into Combusken and later Blaziken symbolized May's growth as a trainer and as a coordinator. Beautifly became a graceful contest star, while her other companions like Bulbasaur and Skitty highlighted the range of personalities she worked with. Through her team, the anime emphasized that growth was a shared journey between trainer and Pokemon, shaped by patience and care. The Pokemon contests themselves became one of Hoenn's most defining features. Unlike traditional battles, contests judged Pokemon on their style, creativity, and ability to dazzle audiences. Moves were used not just for damage, but for spectacle, creating combinations that transformed ordinary attacks into displays of beauty. May's rivalry with Drew, a confident and stylish coordinator, added tension and depth to her story. Drew's presence pushed May to refine her skills, turning her from a novice into a serious contender. These contests expanded the anime's scope, showing that Pokemon could be celebrated in ways beyond combat, appealing to viewers who valued artistry as much as strength. Ash's battles in Hoenn also reflected his maturity. His gym battles were more strategic than in earlier regions, often relying on teamwork and innovative tactics. Against Brawly, the fighting-type gym leader, Ash struggled at first, but after training and adjusting his strategy, he earned a rematch victory that demonstrated his perseverance. His battle against Tate and Liza, the double gym leaders, was particularly notable for showcasing the new double battle format, emphasizing coordination and synergy between partners. These battles underscored the anime's theme that growth required adaptation and creativity, not just raw power. The Hoenn League served as a culmination of Ash's growth in the region. His matches were intense, filled with dramatic moments that highlighted the strength of his team. Though he ultimately lost to Tyson, whose Meowth stood out as a uniquely formidable opponent, Ash's performance demonstrated his progress as a trainer. The loss was bittersweet, but consistent with the anime's tradition of emphasizing lessons over victories. Each defeat reminded viewers that success was measured by growth, not just trophies. Team Rocket continued to be a source of humor and heart, but the Hoenn saga also gave them new opportunities to shine. Jessie's own participation in Pokemon contests, often under the name Jessabella, provided some of the arc's most entertaining moments. While her performances often ended in disaster, they highlighted her determination and flair, qualities that made her more than just a comedic villain. James and Meowth continued to provide support, their antics balancing the more serious storylines with levity. The movies tied to the Hoenn era also left lasting impressions. Pokemon Heroes, featuring Latias and Latios, introduced themes of guardianship and sacrifice, set against the backdrop of a Venetian-inspired city. Jirachi, Wishmaker centered on the fleeting magic of a wish-granting Pokemon, blending themes of wonder and impermanence. Destiny Deoxys brought science fiction elements to the forefront, while Lucario and the Mystery of Mew became one of the franchise's most beloved films, blending myth, history, and emotional storytelling. These movies expanded the anime's scope, showing that it could handle stories ranging from lighthearted to deeply emotional. One of the most impactful aspects of Hoenn was the balance between Ash's traditional journey and May's contests. By giving both characters parallel arcs, the anime offered variety and depth. Viewers could follow Ash's battles in the gyms and then shift to May's performances in contests, ensuring that the season remained fresh and dynamic. This dual focus allowed the series to appeal to a wider audience, offering both action and artistry. The Hoenn saga also emphasized themes of balance and coexistence, reflecting the mythology of the games. The legendary conflict between Groudon and Kyogre, with Rayquaza as the balancing force, symbolized the delicate equilibrium of nature. Episodes exploring this lore highlighted the idea that humanity had to respect natural forces rather than control them. This environmental theme resonated with viewers, adding depth to the fantastical world of Pokemon. Looking back, the Hoenn era represented a reinvention of the Pokemon anime. It introduced new companions, new formats, and new themes while retaining the heart of Ash's journey. May's growth as a coordinator, Ash's maturation as a trainer, and the vibrant setting of Hoenn created a season that felt both nostalgic and fresh. For many fans, Hoenn was proof that the anime could evolve just as much as the games, adapting to new generations without losing its soul. The conclusion of Hoenn left Ash and his companions stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the challenges to come. As they prepared to continue their adventures into the next region, the lessons of Hoenn about creativity, balance, and growth remained with them. The saga had shown that Pokemon was not a static story, but a living journey, capable of reinventing itself with each generation, while still carrying forward the themes of friendship, perseverance, and wonder that defined it from the very beginning. The Sinnoh saga is often remembered as one of the strongest arcs of the entire Pokemon anime. By the time Ash set foot in the Sinnoh region, he was no longer the rookie trainer who had stumbled his way through Kanto. He carried years of experience, a sharper sense of strategy, and a deeper understanding of his bond with Pokemon. At the same time, the anime continued to reinvent itself, introducing a new companion in Dawn, refining the contest format, and exploring themes of growth and destiny with more complexity than ever before. Dawn's arrival marked a shift in tone for the series. Much like May in Hoenn, she began her journey with uncertainty, but her path as a Pokemon coordinator quickly became central to the Sinnoh story. Unlike May, however, Dawn was introduced as someone who already aspired to be a coordinator, following in her mother's footsteps. This generational link gave her journey more personal stakes, as she sought to carve her own identity while living up to a legacy. Her partnership with Piplup became one of the anime's most iconic bonds, full of comedic moments, stubbornness, and unwavering loyalty. Piplup's refusal to evolve became a symbol of individuality, a reminder that strength was not solely defined by form. Brock also returned for Sinnoh, once again bringing his steady presence and knowledge to balance Ash's impulsiveness and Dawn's inexperience. His role as caretaker remained vital, especially in episodes that required wisdom and guidance. While some fans felt his character had begun to settle into familiar patterns, his loyalty and humor ensured that he remained an essential part of the trio's chemistry. Together, Ash, Dawn, and Brock created one of the most balanced groups in the anime's history, with each member contributing distinct perspectives and storylines. Ash's team in Sinnoh was one of his most carefully developed rosters, with each Pokemon receiving meaningful growth and focus. His capture of Turtwig set the tone, as the small grass type evolved into Grottle and then Torterra, reflecting Ash's ability to nurture strength over time. Chimchar's storyline became one of the saga's emotional cores. Originally abandoned by Paul, a rival trainer who believed it was too weak, Chimchar found a new home with Ash. Its journey from timid and fearful to Infernape, a powerhouse of determination, symbolized resilience and the power of kindness. The rivalry between Paul and Ash was often filtered through Chimchar's growth, turning battles into emotional showdowns about philosophy as much as strength. Paul, introduced as Ash's new rival, became one of the most complex antagonists in the anime. His harsh training style and dismissive attitude toward Pokemon created a sharp contrast with Ash's emphasis on trust and friendship. Unlike Gary, who eventually mellowed into respect, Paul remained cold and calculating, challenging Ash at every turn. Their eventual, full 6-on-6 battle in the Sinnoh League became one of the anime's most iconic episodes, not just for its intensity, but for its emotional weight. When Infernape triumphed against Paul's Electivire, the moment symbolized not only victory, but vindication of Ash's philosophy. It proved that compassion could rival and even surpass cruelty, leaving viewers with one of the most satisfying payoffs in the anime's history. Dawn's contest journey added a parallel arc to Ash's gym challenges. Unlike May's more lighthearted introduction to contests, Dawn's story was filled with struggles and setbacks. She faced losses that tested her confidence, moments of self-doubt that mirrored Ash's own challenges. Her rivalries, particularly with Zoe and Kenny, provided ongoing tension, but her partnership with Ash gave her strength. Their high-five ritual became a beloved symbol of their friendship, reinforcing the theme that support and camaraderie were as important as individual ambition. Sinnoh also gave Team Rocket more nuanced roles. While their motto and comedic blunders continued, the writers often allowed Jessie, James, and Meowth to shine in unique ways. Jessie, under the alias Jessabella, became a recurring competitor in contests, sometimes even advancing surprisingly far. These moments added layers to her character, showing that she too sought validation and success beyond her endless pursuit of Pikachu. James's compassion for his Pokemon and Meowth's wit continued to make the trio more than just villains, ensuring they remained central figures in the anime's identity. The Sinnoh League itself was a culmination of everything Ash had learned. His matches were some of the most strategically complex in the anime, showcasing his growth as a battler. His victory over Paul was the emotional climax, but his eventual loss to Tobias, a trainer who used legendary Pokémon like Darkrai and Latios, sparked debate among fans. Some saw it as an unfair twist, while others believed it reinforced the idea that there was always a higher mountain to climb. Regardless, Ash's journey through Sinnoh proved his maturity as a trainer, and his battles remain some of the most beloved in the series. Beyond battles, Sinnoh was notable for its emphasis on mythology and lore. The region's legendaries, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, and Arceus, were tied to cosmic forces of time, space, antimatter, and creation. The anime leaned heavily into these myths, particularly in the associated movies. The rise of Darkrai introduced the dreamlike conflict between Dialga and Palkia. Giratina and the Sky Warrior expanded the mythology into alternate dimensions. Arceus and the Jewel of Life tackled the origin of the Pokémon world itself, making the Sinnoh era one of the most ambitious in storytelling. These films gave the anime a grandeur that elevated it beyond simple adventures, framing the Pokémon world as a place of divine mysteries. Sinnoh also excelled at developing side characters. Gym leaders were given distinct personalities, from Rourke's pride and fossils to Volkner's apathy born of boredom. The Pokémon themselves were often the focus of emotional episodes, such as Gligar's evolution into Gliscor after overcoming fear, or Buzel's determination to prove its strength. These stories added depth to Ash's team, ensuring that every member felt important. Another standout feature of the Sinnoh saga was its pacing. While long, the episodes balanced action, humor, and character growth in a way that felt deliberate. Filler episodes often served to flesh out Pokémon personalities, explore legends, or highlight friendships. This balance made Sinnoh one of the most consistently engaging arcs, even when it slowed down between major battles. The movies tied to Sinnoh also left lasting impressions. Beyond the myth-heavy films, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, though technically set in Hoenn, often felt tied to the thematic weight of Sinnoh with its exploration of loyalty and sacrifice. These cinematic experiences reinforced the anime's ability to blend emotional storytelling with spectacle, keeping fans invested across different mediums. Looking back, the Sinnoh era is often hailed as one of the anime's high points. It combined the best of what had come before Ash's growth, meaningful rivalries, strong companions with new layers of depth and mythology. Dawn's journey, Paul's rivalry, and Infernape's emotional arc created some of the most unforgettable moments in the franchise. The battles were more strategic, the storytelling more ambitious, and the emotional stakes higher than ever. For many fans, Sinnoh represented the anime at its most mature, striking a balance between nostalgia and innovation that resonated across generations. The conclusion of the Sinnoh saga left Ash at a crossroads. Though he did not win the league, his progress was undeniable. He had grown from a rookie trainer into a seasoned competitor, his philosophy tested and proven. Dawn's departure was emotional, as she chose to continue her journey as a coordinator, while Ash and Brock prepared for the next stage of their travels. The Sinnoh arc had shown that the anime could grow alongside its audience, maturing without losing the wonder and humor that made it timeless. It stood as a testament to the idea that Pokémon was more than just a story of battles. It was a story of friendship, resilience, and the pursuit of dreams. The Unova saga marked one of the most dramatic shifts in the history of the Pokémon anime. Following the maturity and depth of Sinnoh, Fans were surprised when the black and white era took the series in a new direction, effectively acting as a soft reboot. The tone, pacing, and even Ash's characterization felt different, sparking debate that continues to this day. For some, this era was a refreshing attempt to reset the series for a new generation of viewers. For others, it represented a step backward in Ash's growth. Regardless of perspective, Unova remains a fascinating chapter full of bold experiments, vibrant characters, and unique storytelling choices. One of the most noticeable changes in the Unova saga was Ash himself. After years of steady progress, culminating in his strategic brilliance in Sinnoh, the anime seemed to reset his skills. In Unova, Ash appeared more inexperienced, often making mistakes in battles that earlier versions of him would have easily avoided. This decision was likely made to make him more relatable to younger audiences experiencing the Pokémon world for the first time. However, for longtime fans, it was jarring to see Ash struggle with fundamentals after demonstrating such maturity in earlier arcs. This controversial change defined much of the discussion around the Unova era, and it remains one of the most debated choices in the anime's history. Alongside Ash came new companions, each with their own personalities and goals. Iris, a wild and energetic girl aspiring to become a dragon master, brought a unique dynamic to the group. Unlike previous companions, Iris often teased Ash for being a kid, turning their relationship into one of playful rivalry. Her bond with Axew, a small dragon type who often traveled outside of its Pokeball, became central to her character. Axew's innocence contrasted with Iris's ambitious goals, emphasizing the theme of growth and patience. Over time, Iris's skills with dragon types earned her respect, though her fiery personality often clashed with Ash's impulsiveness. Ceylon, the other new companion, provided balance with his refined and eccentric demeanor. A Pokémon connoisseur, he claimed to be able to evaluate the compatibility between trainers and their Pokémon. His flamboyant personality, love of food metaphors, and confidence gave him a theatrical presence in the group. Ceylon's expertise often contrasted with Ash's impulsive style, creating comedic tension. Together, Iris and Ceylon formed a duo that felt distinct from Misty, May, or Dawn, giving Unova its own flavor of character interactions. Unova's setting also stood out, inspired by New York City and the broader United States. Its urban skylines, bustling subways, and diverse landscapes gave the anime a different tone compared to the traditional Japanese-inspired regions of earlier arcs. This new setting allowed for fresh storylines, from battling in sports-like arenas to exploring sprawling metropolises. The region's diversity of Pokémon, with an entirely new roster unconnected to older generations, reinforced the sense of a clean slate. For the first time, early episodes focused exclusively on new Pokémon, with older species absent until later. This decision mirrored the design philosophy of the Black and White games, which sought to recreate the feeling of discovery from the very first generation. Ash's Unova team reflected this sense of newness. He caught a wide variety of Pokémon early, more than in most previous arcs, giving the impression of an enthusiastic beginner building his team. His roster included Oshawott, Tepig, and Snivy, echoing the trio of starters. Each had distinct personalities. Oshawott was playful and cowardly, often hiding behind its Scalchop. Tepig carried emotional weight as another abandoned Pokémon, overcoming trauma to grow under Ash's care. Snivy was confident and independent, often rolling its eyes at others' antics. These personalities gave the team a richness that carried episodes even when Ash's strategies faltered. Later additions like Scraggy, Palpitoad, and Crocodile added further depth, with Crocodile in particular becoming a powerhouse that symbolized Ash's ability to nurture strength. The Unova saga also experimented with pacing. Episodes often moved quickly, focusing on lighter adventures rather than long, drawn-out arcs. This shift created a more episodic feel, contrasting with the carefully built rivalries and myth arcs of Sinnoh. While this made the show approachable for new viewers, it frustrated longtime fans who had grown accustomed to deeper continuity. The balance between accessibility and depth became one of the defining struggles of the Unova anime. One of the more divisive elements of this era was Ash's rival, Trip. Introduced as a photographer and new trainer, Trip mirrored Gary's early arrogance. However, his rivalry with Ash never reached the emotional heights of Ash versus Paul. Trip's dismissive attitude toward Ash was intended to create tension, but without the philosophical depth that Paul brought, the dynamic often felt shallow. Many fans felt that Trip lacked the gravitas to be Ash's main foil, making their encounters less impactful. Despite these criticisms, the Unova saga delivered some memorable moments. One was Tepig's evolution into Pignite, which brought closure to its backstory of abandonment. Another was Snivy's repeated displays of elegance and tactical prowess, often outsmarting opponents with clever moves. The introduction of Crocodile, who began as a mischievous Sandile, showcased one of Ash's most satisfying long-term bonds. These storylines reminded viewers that even in a controversial arc, the anime's heart, its focus on relationships between trainers and Pokémon, remained strong. The Unova League became one of the saga's most talked about events, though not for the reasons the writers likely intended. Ash's performance was widely criticized, as he was eliminated early in a battle against Cameron, a trainer who famously forgot to bring a full team and still managed to win. For fans who had watched Ash grow through Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh, this felt like a regression, undermining his progress. While the League did provide exciting battles and moments of growth, the anticlimactic defeat overshadowed the positives, cementing the Unova League as one of the anime's most disappointing conclusions. Beyond Ash's journey, the Unova era continued to feature Team Rocket, though with a significant change. Early in the arc, Jessie, James, and Meowth were portrayed as more competent and serious than ever before. They wore new uniforms, carried out missions with efficiency, and posed a genuine threat. However, fans quickly missed their comedic charm, and the writers eventually returned them to their more humorous roles. This shift reflected the larger identity crisis of the Unova saga, an attempt to reinvent the anime that ultimately circled back to familiar patterns. The movies tied to Unova also experimented with new themes. Victini and the Black Hero, Zekrom and Victini, and the White Hero Reshiram, released as twin films, explored the legendary dragons and the theme of truth versus ideals. Kyurem versus The Sword of Justice introduced the musketeer trio Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion alongside Keldeo, while Genesect and The Legend Awakened explored themes of displacement and adaptation. These films reinforced the grandeur of Unova's mythology, even as the main series focused more on episodic adventures. Looking back, the Unova saga remains one of the most polarizing eras in the Pokémon anime. For new viewers, it offered accessibility, bright energy, and a fresh cast of characters. For longtime fans, it felt like a step backward, especially in its portrayal of Ash. Yet even within its controversies, Unova delivered valuable lessons. It reminded audiences that journeys are not always linear, that setbacks and stumbles are part of growth. It showed that reinvention carries risks, but also the potential for discovery. The conclusion of the Unova arc left Ash ready to move on once again, his spirit unbroken, despite the criticisms of fans and the disappointments of the League. For many, the Unova saga became a reminder that Pokémon was not just about flawless victories or perfect arcs, but about the persistence of the journey. Each region, no matter how flawed, added a new layer to Ash's story. Unova, with its experiments and controversies, was no exception. It was another step in the long, winding path of a trainer chasing his dream. The Kalos saga is often remembered as a renaissance for the Pokémon anime. After the controversies of Unova, many fans felt the series needed to regain its footing, and the X and Y era delivered. It combined sharp animation, strong battles, and emotionally resonant storytelling, creating one of the most beloved chapters in Ash's journey. For many viewers, Kalos represented the anime at its peak in terms of maturity, spectacle, and character depth, solidifying its reputation as more than just a tie-in to the games. One of the most striking aspects of the Kalos saga was its animation quality. The series adopted fluid battle choreography, cinematic camera angles, and expressive character designs that elevated the show's visual style. Battles became dynamic spectacles, with attacks animated in ways that conveyed real impact and creativity. This visual upgrade gave Kalos a sense of polish that made every confrontation feel like an event. Fans who had followed the anime for years were stunned by the leap in quality, and it set a new standard for what the series could look like. Ash's portrayal in Kalos was another reason for its acclaim. Unlike in Unova, where his maturity seemed reset, in Kalos, Ash was depicted as confident, skilled, and highly strategic. His bond with his Pokémon was stronger than ever, and his ability to inspire others became central to the story. He felt like a leader, a mentor, and a seasoned trainer who had grown from his earlier missteps. For fans disappointed by his regression in Unova, this depiction felt like vindication, a return to the Ash they had hoped to see. Ash's team in Kalos reflected his growth. His partnership with Froakie, which eventually evolved into Greninja, became one of the most iconic bonds in the entire anime. The introduction of Ash Greninja, a unique form triggered by their extraordinary connection, symbolized the depth of their partnership. This transformation blurred the line between trainer and Pokémon, making them feel like true equals. The battles featuring Ash Greninja were some of the most visually stunning and emotionally charged in the anime's history, cementing Greninja as one of Ash's most beloved companions. Talonflame, Noivern, and Hawlucha added diversity and flair to his team. Talonflame brought aerial dominance, Noivern embodied growth from timid beginnings, and Hawlucha's flamboyant personality and wrestling-style moves gave battles a sense of showmanship. Goodra added emotional weight, as its decision to return to its swamp home after traveling with Ash underscored the theme of letting go when it's best for a friend. Together, this team showcased balance, strength, and personality, embodying Ash's evolution as a trainer. The Kalos arc also introduced Serena, whose story became one of the most emotionally resonant companion arcs in the anime. Serena was unique in that she began her journey without a clear goal. Her connection to Ash, stemming from a childhood encounter, gave her motivation to travel, but she struggled to find her own purpose. This uncertainty made her relatable to viewers, many of whom saw themselves in her search for identity. Over time, Serena discovered her passion in Pokemon showcases, performance-based competitions that emphasized style and creativity. Unlike May and Dawn, who competed in contests, Serena's showcases felt closer to dance and theater, emphasizing performance artistry. Her growth as a performer mirrored Ash's growth as a battler, and her bond with Fennekin, later Braixen, became central to her journey. The relationship between Serena and Ash also carried romantic undertones, more than any previous companion arc. Serena's admiration for Ash evolved into a subtle but powerful thread, culminating in the famous kiss scene at the end of Kalos. Though the moment was left ambiguous, it remains one of the most talked about events in the anime, symbolizing the depth of their connection. Clement and Bonnie, the other companions, added their own flavors. Clement, a gym leader and inventor, brought a mix of intelligence and comedic mishaps. His inventions often backfired, providing levity, but his dedication to his role as a trainer and brother made him endearing. Bonnie, though too young to be a trainer, embodied innocence and curiosity. Her bond with Dedenne was a highlight, and her determination to protect Pokémon, despite her youth, gave her moments of surprising courage. The sibling dynamic between Clement and Bonnie added warmth, contrasting with Ash's intensity and Serena's growth. The villains of Kalos also stood out. Team Flare, adapted from the games, became one of the most dangerous threats in the anime. Their plot to use Zygarde's power to reshape the world gave the series a darker tone, especially in the climactic arc where the destruction of Lumio City loomed. Lysandre, their leader, was depicted with chilling charisma, embodying a villain whose vision of perfection threatened balance. The inclusion of Zygarde in its core and complete forms expanded the lore, tying into the themes of environmentalism and the fragility of ecosystems. The Team Flare arc is often praised as one of the anime's best villain storylines, delivering tension and stakes that rivaled even the movies. Speaking of movies, the Kalos era produced some of the most memorable cinematic experiences. Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction introduced the region's myths, featuring Xerneas and Yveltal as embodiments of life and destruction. Hoopa and the Clash of Ages offered spectacle with legendary Pokémon from across generations, while Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel explored themes of distrust between humans and Pokémon. These films reflected the grandeur of Kalos, blending myth with action and emotion. The Kalos League became one of the anime's most anticipated and celebrated arcs. Ash's battles were depicted with intensity and strategy, showcasing his growth as one of the strongest trainers in the franchise. His semi-final battle against Sawyer, a rival who had studied and admired Ash's tactics, was particularly impactful. Sawyer's growth mirrored Ash's influence, making their clash feel like a passing of the torch. However, it was Ash's final battle against Elaine that became legendary. The Ash Greninja vs. Mega Charizard X showdown was one of the most beautifully animated and emotionally charged battles in anime history. Though Ash ultimately lost, the narrow defeat cemented his status as a top-tier trainer. Fans were heartbroken as this felt like his closest chance to finally winning a major league. Yet, the battle's quality and Ash's performance ensured that it was remembered not as a failure, but as a triumph of storytelling and character development. Kalos also emphasized themes of bonds and unity more than any previous saga. From Ash's connection with Greninja to Serena's discovery of her passion, from Clement's growth as a leader to Bonnie's courage in protecting others, the arc consistently highlighted relationships as the foundation of strength. This focus resonated with fans, elevating the saga beyond battles and competitions. It reminded viewers that Pokémon was, at its core, about trust, friendship, and the courage to chase dreams. Looking back, the Kalos era is often hailed as one of the high points of the Pokémon anime. Its combination of strong animation, emotional storytelling, and thrilling battles created a saga that appealed to both children and longtime fans. While Ash's League defeat was bittersweet, the journey through Kalos solidified his reputation as a skilled and inspiring trainer. Serena's arc, the Team Flare storyline, and the unforgettable bond with Greninja ensured that this era left an enduring legacy. The conclusion of Kalos carried both triumph and melancholy. Serena chose to continue her journey as a performer, Clement returned to his gym, and Bonnie stayed behind with her brother. Ash, as always, set out for his next adventure, but this departure felt particularly poignant. The Kalos saga had given him some of his greatest highs and hardest losses, leaving fans eager to see how his journey would evolve. It had proven that the anime could reinvent itself yet again, delivering a story that balanced spectacle with heart, maturity with wonder. For many, Kalos remains a golden age, a reminder of how powerful Pokémon could be as both entertainment and storytelling. The Alola saga marked one of the most radical reinventions in the history of the Pokémon anime. Following the polished battles and emotional drama of Kalos, fans were surprised when Sun and Moon introduced a softer, more comedic art style and a school setting that completely changed the pace of Ash's journey. For some, this shift felt jarring, a departure from the intensity of the previous saga. But over time, Alola proved itself to be one of the most heartfelt eras of the anime, full of warmth, humor, character growth, and most significantly, Ash's first official league championship. The most noticeable change in Alola was the art style. Gone were the sharp lines and dynamic designs of Kalos, replaced with rounder, more exaggerated expressions and looser animation. At first, many fans criticized the new look, mistaking it for a downgrade. However, the softer style allowed for greater flexibility in comedy and emotion. The characters could stretch, exaggerate, and emote in ways that made the show more playful and expressive. This choice fit perfectly with the tropical, laid-back vibe of Alola, a region inspired by Hawaii and defined by its emphasis on community, family, and joy. Ash's role also changed dramatically in this era. Instead of traveling from town to town collecting gym badges, he enrolled in the Pokémon School under the guidance of Professor Kukui. This new format replaced the traditional journey structure with a classroom dynamic, giving Ash a group of classmates who served as both friends and rivals. While some fans initially missed the gym challenge format, the school setting allowed for deeper exploration of friendships, slice-of-life storytelling, and character-driven episodes. It made Alola feel like a second home for Ash, a place where he wasn't just passing through but truly belonging. The classmates became one of the defining features of Alola. Lily, shy and initially fearful of touching Pokémon, embarked on a journey of courage and healing. Her gradual overcoming of trauma, especially through her bond with Snowy the Alolan Vulpix, became one of the saga's most moving arcs. Kiawe, the fiery and serious classmate, often served as Ash's rival in training intensity, bringing humor through his over-the-top personality while showcasing genuine respect for Ash's growth. Mallow embodied warmth and care. Her episodes often centered on cooking and nurturing bonds with Pokémon. Lana, calm and determined, found strength in her fishing skills and her bond with Poplio. Sophocles, fascinated by technology, brought comic relief and relatability, as his insecurities often mirrored real-world childhood struggles. Together, this group created a sense of community unlike anything the anime had shown before. Ash's team in Alola also reflected this new environment. Rowlet, his quirky grass type, became one of the most comedic and endearing Pokémon in his roster. Known for falling asleep at inappropriate times and even refusing to evolve, Rowlet embodied the playful tone of the series. Litten's evolution into Incineroar brought emotional depth, especially through its backstory tied to Stoutland, an older mentor figure whose passing left a lasting mark. Lycanroc became a symbol of Ash's growth, evolving after an intense bond of trust and becoming one of his most reliable battlers. Poipole, an Ultra Beast, added a sense of mystery and wonder, while its eventual return to its world echoed themes of love and parting. And then there was Melmetal, Ash's first mythical Pokémon, a powerhouse that emphasized just how unique Alola truly was. The anime also introduced the concept of Z-moves, flashy finishing attacks that required harmony between trainer and Pokémon. These moves gave battles a theatrical flair, turning even smaller skirmishes into spectacles. Ash's use of Z-moves with his team highlighted his ability to connect with his Pokémon on a deep level. The mechanics also tied into Alola's cultural identity, emphasizing tradition, rituals, and the bond between humans and Pokémon. One of the standout arcs of Alola was Lily's family storyline. Her relationship with her brother Gladion, their connection to Type, Null, later Silvally, and the mysterious disappearance of their father added emotional depth and intrigue. Lusamine, their mother, was depicted with layers of complexity, her obsession with Ultra Beasts causing a rift with her children. The anime softened her harsher qualities from the games, but still explored themes of family, neglect, and reconciliation. This arc gave the Alola saga weight, balancing its comedic tone with moments of genuine drama. Team Rocket also thrived in Alola. Rather than constantly chasing Ash across regions, they settled into the tropical setting with new Pokémon such as Mimikyu and Bewear. Mimikyu's personal vendetta against Pikachu became one of the funniest and darkest running gags, while Bewear's habit of swooping in to whisk Jessie, James, and Meowth away became a recurring comedic highlight. Despite their antics, the trio's affection for their Pokémon and resilience continued to make them endearing. The Alola League was perhaps the most groundbreaking moment in Ash's journey. Unlike previous regions, where leagues were depicted as grand tournaments for elite trainers, the Alola League began as the first ever held in the region. Its more casual atmosphere reflected Alola's spirit, but the stakes for Ash were no less significant. His journey through the tournament showcased his team's growth and his own resilience. When Ash faced Gladion in the finals, the battle carried not only competitive tension, but also the weight of Lily's family story. In the end, Ash triumphed, becoming the very first champion of the Alola League. For fans who had watched him lose time and time again, this victory was monumental. It was not just a personal win for Ash, but a vindication for decades of viewers who had grown up waiting to see him achieve his dream. The climax of Alola also featured an epic showdown with Necrozma, tying into the Ultra Beasts and legendary lore. Ash and his classmates, alongside their Pokémon, worked together to save their world, underscoring the themes of unity and friendship that defined the region. This grand battle contrasted beautifully with the lighthearted tone of earlier episodes, showing that Alola could deliver both comedy and high-stakes drama with equal skill. What made the Alola saga so beloved in hindsight was its heart. The slower pace, school setting, and comedic style allowed for deeper bonds between characters. Ash wasn't just a traveler passing through towns. He was part of a community, a family. The friendships he built in Alola felt permanent, with emotional weight that lingered beyond the region. Episodes often focused less on competition and more on personal growth. From Lily overcoming her fears to Kiawe learning humility, from Mallow processing grief to Sophocles gaining confidence, these smaller arcs added layers of humanity that resonated with viewers of all ages. The conclusion of the Alola saga was emotional in ways unique to this era. Ash's departure felt less like moving on from another region and more like leaving behind a family he had truly belonged to. His classmates had grown alongside him, their stories intertwined in ways that made goodbyes bittersweet. Winning the league and becoming a champion gave Ash a new identity, not just as a dreamer, but as someone who had truly achieved one of his lifelong goals. Looking back, the Alola saga stands as one of the most surprising and rewarding reinventions of the Pokémon anime. Its art style, school format, and comedic tone initially drew skepticism, but it ultimately delivered a story rich in heart, humor, and triumph. Ash's first championship, the depth of the classmates, and the warmth of the community made it a saga unlike any other. It reminded fans that Pokémon was not only about battles, but about family, belonging, and joy. For many, Alola became proof that even radical change could produce something beautiful, leaving a legacy that endures as one of the most heartfelt eras of Ash's journey. The Journey's saga, which encompassed the Galar region and beyond, represented one of the boldest expansions in the history of the Pokémon anime. Rather than keeping Ash confined to a single new region, Journeys gave him a passport to the entire Pokémon world. For the first time, Ash wasn't just traveling through towns and collecting badges. He was exploring every region introduced so far, encountering old friends, battling new rivals, and stepping into a global competition that would bring his story full circle. This fresh format allowed the anime to celebrate its history while pushing Ash toward the culmination of a decades-long journey. The premise of Journeys centered on Ash's enrollment in the World Coronation Series, a global ranking system that allowed trainers to challenge one another and climb the ladder toward the title of Monarch, the strongest trainer in the world. This framework provided structure while also freeing the anime from the traditional badge collecting format. Instead of gym-to-gym progression, Ash traveled wherever the competition took him, revisiting familiar locations like Kanto and Hoenn, while also exploring new ones in Galar. This worldwide scope gave the saga a sense of grandeur, as if the entire Pokémon world was converging to witness Ash's final ascent. Ash wasn't alone on this journey. His new companion, Go, represented a different philosophy of training. Whereas Ash's focus was on battling, Go aspired to catch every Pokémon, working toward the ultimate goal of capturing Mew. His dream mirrored the slogan, "Gotta catch 'em all," grounding him as a character who reflected the collecting side of the franchise. Go's boundless enthusiasm and encyclopedic knowledge of Pokémon provided contrast to Ash's battle-hardened experience. Their partnership embodied two sides of the same coin, battling and collecting, exploration and mastery. The Galar region, inspired by the United Kingdom, brought its own flavor, with sprawling cities, rolling countryside, and the iconic Winden Stadium. It offered a backdrop rich in culture and scale. The introduction of Dynamax and Gigantamax battles added spectacle, turning ordinary matches into colossal clashes that shook entire stadiums. Ash's mastery of these mechanics, particularly through Pikachu's Gigantamax form, gave his battles a new level of intensity. At the same time, the World Coronation series allowed him to face opponents from across regions, breaking down the barriers between generations of Pokémon. Ash's team in Journeys was carefully curated to reflect both nostalgia and progress. Dragonite, one of the franchise's most iconic Pokémon, joined his roster early, symbolizing his growth into a trainer worthy of commanding such a powerful ally. Gengar added a mix of humor and strength, its mischievous personality balanced by moments of loyalty. Lucario became one of Ash's most important partners, with their bond deepening through Aura, echoing themes introduced as far back as the Lucario movie. Dracovish brought quirky charm as one of the series' first fossil Pokémon, while Sirfetch'd added both comedy and determination. And, of course, Pikachu remained his constant companion, now stronger and more iconic than ever. Together, this team represented Ash's maturity, with each member chosen not for novelty, but for the strength of their bond. One of the most remarkable elements of Journeys was its willingness to revisit Ash's past. Old companions returned in special episodes, allowing fans to reunite with Misty, Brock, Dawn, May, Serena, and others. These reunions gave the saga a celebratory feel, as if Ash's journey had come full circle. They also highlighted how far he had come, with past friends admiring his progress and recognizing his growth. For longtime viewers, these moments were deeply nostalgic, weaving decades of storytelling into a cohesive whole. Go's story arc added emotional weight alongside Ash's battles. His pursuit of Mew led him to join Project Mew, a research group dedicated to studying the elusive mythical Pokémon. Through this storyline, Go faced challenges of trust, teamwork, and self-doubt. His bond with Pokémon like Sobble, which eventually evolved into Inteleon, reflected his growth not just as a collector, but as a trainer capable of forming deep relationships. Go's development offered viewers a parallel journey, reminding them that Pokémon stories could take many forms beyond traditional battles. The climax of Journeys came in the Masters 8 tournament, where Ash battled the strongest trainers in the world. The roster included icons such as Steven, Cynthia, Diantha, Lance, Elaine, and Iris, each representing a pinnacle of strength. These battles were not just competitions, they were celebrations of the entire franchise, pitting Ash against legends he had admired or rivaled throughout his journey. His semifinal battle against Cynthia, the Sinnoh champion, became one of the most intense matches in the anime, with Lucario emerging as the hero through sheer determination and bond. But the greatest moment of Ash's career came in the final against Leon, the undefeated champion of Galar. Leon, with his towering Charizard, represented the ultimate challenge, embodying confidence, power, and charisma. The battle stretched across multiple episodes, showcasing every ounce of Ash's skill and strategy. Pikachu, battling Charizard in the final moments, carried the weight of decades of history. When Pikachu triumphed, and Ash was crowned world champion, it was more than a victory in a single battle. It was the culmination of a dream pursued for 25 years. Fans around the world celebrated, many moved to tears, as Ash finally achieved the goal he had chased since the beginning. It was a cultural moment that transcended the anime itself, marking the end of an era. Journeys also featured arcs centered on legendary Pokémon, including encounters with Eternatus, Zacian, and Zamazenta. These storylines tied into the lore of Galar while also reinforcing the global scale of the saga. The introduction of Chloe, another recurring character, added further dimension as her gradual bond with Eevee explored themes of choice and identity. These subplots enriched the narrative, ensuring that Journeys was not only about Ash's rise, but also about the diverse ways trainers connect with Pokemon. The conclusion of Journeys carried both triumph and melancholy. Ash had finally achieved his dream, but this raised the question of what came next. For many fans, his victory felt like the natural end of his story, a fitting conclusion after decades of perseverance. The anime honored this milestone with a sense of celebration, revisiting old memories and reinforcing the idea that Ash's journey had inspired generations of viewers. Go, meanwhile, continued his pursuit of Mew, symbolizing that the spirit of adventure never truly ends. Looking back, the Journeys saga stands as one of the most significant in the anime's history. It broke boundaries by spanning the entire Pokemon world, reuniting past characters and delivering on the promise of Ash's ultimate victory. It balanced nostalgia with innovation, showcasing both familiar faces and new adventures. Most importantly, it gave fans the payoff they had waited decades to see. Ash, standing at the top, recognized as the strongest trainer in the world. The Galar era was not without its controversies. The episodic structure, the pacing of Go's story, and Ash's sudden leap to world champion status sparked debate, but its legacy is undeniable. Journeys gave closure to one of the longest-running character arcs in anime, transforming Ash from a boy chasing a dream into a champion who achieved it. It was not just the end of a saga, but a celebration of everything Pokemon had represented: friendship, perseverance, discovery, and the belief that anyone, no matter how unlikely, could reach the top through courage and heart.